On February 24, 2010, SeaWorld's renowned trainer Dawn Brancheau took the stage for the Dine with Shamu show, an event she had conducted countless times before. However, this routine performance took a devastating and gruesome turn as it concluded, leaving Brancheau's body mangled, missing her left arm and with part of her scalp torn away, among other grievous injuries. Dawn Brancheau, one of the marine park's most seasoned and celebrated trainers, had been declared dead. How did a seasoned and revered SeaWorld trainer meet a tragic fate, crushed and submerged in the formidable jaws of an orca? Dawn Brancheau, born Dawn Therese Laverde in Indiana, was captivated by orcas from an early age. At just 10 years old, her encounter with Shamu during a family trip to SeaWorld in Orlando ignited her passion for these magnificent creatures. Growing up as the youngest among 6 siblings, Dawn's fascination with orcas blossomed into a deep connection with the majestic creatures, fueling her desire to work alongside them. It was her dream to do it. She loved her job. Marion Laverde, Brancheau's mother. Her journey toward this dream spanned years of dedication and study. After graduating with a dual degree in psychology and animal behavior from the University of South Carolina, Dawn embarked on her career, initially working with dolphins in New Jersey. Her path eventually led her to Six Flags theme parks, where she cared for otters and sea lions before finding her way to SeaWorld in 1996. That same year, she married Scott Brancheau, a fellow SeaWorld performer, sharing her ardor for the natural world with her beloved partner. Dawn's commitment to orcas extended beyond her professional life. Not only did she reshape the Shamu show and become a prominent figure at SeaWorld, but her home life mirrored her devotion to animals. Filled with rescue pets and a constant stream of diverse creatures, Dawn's compassion extended far beyond the confines of her workplace. I remember walking down the aisle of Shamu Stadium and telling my mom, "This is what I want to do." Dawn Brancheau. While Dawn Brancheau was cognizant of the inherent risks associated with working alongside orcas, she held a profound understanding that these marine mammals rarely posed a threat to humans in their natural habitat. Speaking openly about the dangers of working closely with orcas, she forged a special bond with Tilikum, a 5.4-ton orca, measuring more than 22 feet in length, also known as blackfish, a massive and iconic orca at SeaWorld. Their relationship, built on mutual love and trust, was a testament to her deep connection with these creatures. According to Carl McLeod from Australia's Department of Conservation, orcas are very curious, highly intelligent, and really social animals. So it's unsurprising that we have a number of encounters around the country, diverse fishermen and stuff like that. For Dawn Brancheau, her life intertwined seamlessly with the world of orcas, a passion that drove her personally and professionally, culminating in a tragic event that shook the very foundation of her life's work and dedication. On that fateful day, February 24, 2010, the idyllic setting of SeaWorld's Dining with Shamu show turned into a nightmarish scene as the unthinkable unfolded. During the live killer whale performance featuring Tilikum and experienced trainer Dawn Brancheau, tragedy struck shockingly and violently. Eyewitness accounts painted a harrowing picture of the incident. John Topolewski told investigators, "Dawn was lying on her stomach. Tilikum was interacting with her nose to nose. Dawn's long hair floated on the water into Tilikum's mouth. Tilikum, the massive killer whale, seized Brancheau, initially described as grabbing her ponytail by some witnesses, while others claimed it was her arm or shoulder. Witnessing Dawn's struggle as she attempted to disentangle her hair from the orca's mouth, he swiftly made for the alarm button, a clear signal of impending danger. However, upon glancing back moments later, the petite 5 feet 1 inch figure of Dawn had vanished from sight. The blaring emergency siren reverberated across the vast expanse of the marine park, prompting a swift response from employees who hurried to the pool area. Their frantic efforts involved attempting to contain the agitated creature using nets and employing diversionary tactics, such as tossing food into the pool in a bid to redirect its attention. Tilikum forcefully submerged Brancheau, subjecting her to a violent series of movements that resulted in her tragic drowning. Park CCTV footage revealed the chilling timeline of events. At 13:38, Dawn Brancheau was captured on camera entering the water. A mere 5 minutes later, at 13:43, Tilikum was observed swimming with her lifeless body clutched in his mouth. At the heart of SeaWorld's picturesque Dine with Shamu area, where people gathered to enjoy lunch and marvel at the majestic orca show, tragedy unfolded in a chilling sequence of events. Lynn Schaber, an eyewitness, stood by the glass, anticipating the usual signal that the massive marine beast was ready for its descent. However, instead of a routine performance, Lynn was confronted with a horrifying scene as Tilikum abruptly pulled Dawn Brancheau into the depths. Behind the reinforced glass, the unfolding drama played out like a real-time horror film. The 5.4-ton whale began to drown Dawn, a distressing spectacle witnessed by Lynn and other onlookers. Lynn, recognizing Tilikum's possessive nature, knew the peril was grave. Once the powerful orca had something in its jaws, it was unwilling to release it. Dawn's desperate attempts to surface were futile, her struggle tragically confined beneath the water's surface. Stacy Nichols, another witness working on the Dine with Shamu show, observed Tilikum executing a deep dive with Dawn in his grip. Tourists recoiled in horror as they noted the violent shaking of Dawn's body, and eyewitnesses recounted scenes of Tilikum seemingly striking her as she fought for escape. Witnesses described the orca carrying her by her arm and torso, and one recounted Dawn's frantic attempts to scramble out of the water. As chaos ensued, 7 other smaller whales in the pool were swiftly relocated to neighboring pools. Attempts to regain control escalated as staff slapped the water, but Tilikum remained unresponsive, growing increasingly agitated and thrashing violently. The SeaWorld paramedic Thomas Tobin arrived promptly, spending 3 to 4 agonizing minutes without seeing Dawn surface. After 30 harrowing minutes in isolation in a medical pool, Dawn's lifeless body was finally extracted from Tilikum's grasp. The gruesome discovery of her scalped state and suspected broken neck left the paramedic with a grim realization. Dawn had lost her life in the brutal encounter. SeaWorld employees were compelled to dive to the pool's bottom to retrieve her scalp. Even after Dawn's body was recovered, the ominous presence of Tilikum lingered. Antagonistic and relentless, the massive orca persistently sought to reclaim what had been lost. The tragic scene concluded with Dawn's lifeless form under a black sheet, while Tilikum loomed at the edge of the pool, periodically rising above the wall, a haunting reminder of the profound tragedy that unfolded in the depths of D Pool. The motive behind Tilikum's brutal attack on that fateful day remains shrouded in uncertainty. Speculation lingers, with some pondering whether the colossal orca might have misconstrued Dawn Brancheau's ponytail as a toy, a tragic misjudgment with dire consequences. Yet, the most plausible explanation seems to be traced back to the profound toll of 26 years spent confined within the confines of a concrete tank. For this majestic wild animal, the weight of captivity and the deprivation of its natural habitat may have reached a breaking point, culminating in a harrowing moment when Tilikum simply snapped. The tragic story of Tilikum's involvement in Dawn Brancheau's death holds roots that trace back to the dark reality of his early captivity. Blaming the orca for Brancheau's demise, former SeaWorld trainer Jeffrey Ventre, however, sheds light on the deeper truth that begins with Tilikum's traumatic capture near Iceland in 1983. Taken from his mother in the vast expanse of the ocean at the tender age of 2, Tilikum's journey into captivity began at the rundown marine park, Sealand of the Pacific. Enduring the harsh training conditions, food deprivation became a twisted technique employed on him. Moreover, Tilikum faced relentless attacks from the dominant female orcas with whom he was forcibly housed. Subjected to the demands of 8 shows a day, 7 days a week, the captive orca's plight reached a horrifying climax when he dragged Sealand trainer Kelty Byrne to the pool's bottom. In a brutal episode, Tilikum and the other orcas stripped Byrne of her clothing, leaving behind bite marks and bruises on her skin. The retrieval of her body took nearly 2 agonizing hours. Following Kelty's tragic death, Sealand closed its doors, and its orcas, including Tilikum, found a new home at SeaWorld after being purchased. My understanding of the animal's past was very limited. In fact, There had been 30 incidents between killer whales and trainers prior to my being hired at the park, and I didn't know about any of them until after I left SeaWorld. So I think that's a serious mistake on SeaWorld's part, that they weren't letting people know the history of all the animals. Former SeaWorld trainer Samantha Berg. The extent of the brutality became apparent as the coroner's report detailed the grievous injuries inflicted on Brancheau during the prolonged attack. Her jaw was fractured, her ear, knee, and arm dislocated, and her vertebrae and ribs snapped. Tilikum's relentless grip tore her arm from its socket, and her hair and scalp were found at the pool's bottom, remnants of the vicious assault by the formidable killer whale. Even in death, the ordeal continued, as Tilikum refused to release Brancheau's lifeless body. For an agonizing 45 minutes, other trainers struggled to coax the powerful whale away with food and nets, highlighting the profound impact of the incident on both human and marine life. Dawn Brancheau, at the tender age of 40, met a tragic end to her illustrious career as a beloved SeaWorld trainer. Her final resting place is the Holy Sepulchre Cemetery just outside Chicago, Illinois. Was SeaWorld behind the unfortunate death of Dawn Brancheau? As Dawn Brancheau shared a seemingly tranquil moment with Tilikum, petting him in the shallow water, there was no forewarning of the impending tragedy about to unfold. According to a SeaWorld employee, the attack was entirely unpredictable, with no discernible signals from the orca indicating aggression. Even if Brancheau had perceived potential signs of Tilikum's hostility, altering the performance might not have been an option. Trainers as SeaWorld star performers were expected to carry on with shows, irrespective of any indications that an orca might exhibit aggressive behavior. In an alarming incident where trainers did conclude a show due to an orca's unsettling behavior, SeaWorld's vice president for animal training criticized the decision. He argued in a 2-page document that ending the show prematurely drew unnecessary attention to the incident. This contradicted SeaWorld's official stance, asserting that trainers could terminate a show at any moment if they felt uncomfortable. The conflicting expectations placed on trainers underscored the challenging predicament they faced when assessing the unpredictable nature of orcas. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, initiated an investigation that centered around SeaWorld's practice of requiring trainers to engage in close interactions with these massive wild mammals. OSHA cited SeaWorld for multiple violations and pressed the company to cease jeopardizing trainers' safety by compelling them to interact with orcas during performances. This investigation brought to light the inherent risks involved in such close contact and ignited a broader conversation about the ethical and safety considerations surrounding the captivity and training of orcas in marine parks. The revelations unearthed by OSHA during SeaWorld's prolonged legal battles were deeply concerning and pointed to a disconcerting pattern. Over 2 decades leading up to Dawn Brancheau's tragic death, SeaWorld had amassed a disturbing record, including a staggering 100 reports detailing aggression or warning signs of aggression among its orcas. Shockingly, 12 of these incidents resulted in injuries or fatalities to trainers, underscoring a recurrent and grave safety concern. Even more troubling was SeaWorld's handling, or lack thereof, of these incidents. The corporate curator for zoological operations at SeaWorld admitted that at times, the company failed to document these incidents. The absence of incident reports for Dawn Brancheau's death and a previous death potentially involving Tilikum underscored this lapse in documentation. This negligence raised critical questions about SeaWorld's transparency and accountability regarding the safety of its trainers and the welfare of its captive orcas. Moreover, before integrating Tilikum into its marine park, SeaWorld had been cautioned about the potential hazards. When seeking a permit for the orca from the National Marine Fisheries Service, NMFS, SeaWorld overlooked crucial incident reports, notably the tragic sealand trainer's death involving Tilikum. Despite NMFS's urging to examine this prior incident, SeaWorld attributed the attack to a purported design flaw at Sealand. Throughout the permit acquisition process, SeaWorld repeatedly asserted its superior safety measures, training protocols, and park facilities compared to Sealand, assuring that such a catastrophic event would not occur at its establishment. These revelations painted a troubling picture of SeaWorld's approach to safety protocols documentation practices, and its handling of critical warnings preceding Dawn Brancheau's tragic demise. The accumulation of evidence suggested a systemic failure to prioritize safety and a concerning disregard for past incidents that could have forewarned the potential dangers associated with the orcas in their care. The lingering concerns surrounding Dawn Brancheau's tragic last day as a SeaWorld trainer, even 13 years after the incident, raised deeply troubling questions about the marine park's actions and priorities. One perplexing aspect centers on the 27-minute delay in calling for paramedics after Tilikum pulled Brancheau into the water. Speculations abound, questioning whether this time lapse was exploited to manage witnesses and control the narrative, possibly aligning accounts with SeaWorld's desired version that suggested Brancheau's ponytail triggered Tilikum's reaction. Equally perplexing is SeaWorld's owner's attempt to shift blame onto the orca trainer, even after an OSHA investigation revealed long-standing failures in safety measures and recall signals. The investigation brought to light that these measures had been deficient for years, leading to the critical question of why SeaWorld persisted in relying on these flawed protocols. The judge's decision, backed by evidence, suggests a pattern of SeaWorld downplaying the risks associated with working with captive orcas and attempting to conceal its shortcomings in the incident that resulted in Dawn Brancheau's death. The chilling quote from an internal SeaWorld document underscores the inadequacy of the safety measures employed. Let's face it, in these types of incidents, I don't recall any whale responding to any hand slap, food bucket, or any other distraction we tried to implement. These revelations prompt a broader skepticism about SeaWorld's commitment to safety, transparency, and the well-being of both its trainers and captive animals. The reluctance to prioritize safety over profit and the attempts to deflect responsibility raise profound concerns about the ethical considerations and corporate accountability within SeaWorld. If SeaWorld did not prioritize the life of its star trainer, why should trust be placed in its commitment to the welfare of the captive animals under its care? Dawn Brancheau's tragic death marked a turning point in SeaWorld's practices and triggered a seismic shift in public perception. Following the incident, SeaWorld enacted a significant policy change. No trainer would ever again enter a pool with orcas. The release of the documentary Blackfish in 2013 further catalyzed a nationwide conversation on conservation and captivity, focusing on the perilous conditions faced by orcas in confinement and shedding light on the circumstances surrounding Dawn Brancheau's untimely demise. The film garnered numerous awards and was credited with prompting SeaWorld's reassessment of its treatment of captive animals. In response to mounting public scrutiny and changing attitudes, SeaWorld announced in 2016 that it would cease breeding orcas in captivity. This pivotal decision led to the retirement or elimination of many theatrical shows featuring orcas. The remaining displays now aim to mirror the natural behavior of orcas in the wild, specifically in the Pacific Northwest, where they are typically found. Notably, these performances strictly prohibit any interaction between humans and orcas. SeaWorld has also committed to no longer acquiring orcas captured from the wild. The organization has shifted its focus towards conservation efforts and the rehabilitation of the orcas under its care. Meanwhile, Dawn Brancheau's family chose to celebrate her life rather than dwell on the circumstances of her passing. In 2016, they established the Dawn Brancheau Foundation in her honor. The foundation is dedicated to improving the lives of both children and animals in need, encouraging others to pursue their dreams, and emphasizing the importance of community service, a tribute to the positive impact Dawn Brancheau had on the world around her.